Today I'm going to look at the first Sony 8mm recorder that they sold as a standalone product, this EV C8U. It came as part of the Pack 8, which came with the CCD M8 standalone 8mm record-only camera. This video was actually shot about 4 years ago, and I never got around to working on it because, well, the unit is not repairable because there's parts missing. But let's take a look and see this old piece of technology.
You know, it's sometimes quite amazing what you'll find in the garbage. Like just today I was going through a box of old junk and I came across this old EV C8U 8mm video recorder that the head drum has been robbed from. Now I don't know if there's anything else wrong with this or whether the head drum just has been robbed. I thought for a minute, because I salvaged a mechanism off of a camera to fix my digital 8, that I'd be able to just take the head drum off of this one, but as you can see, it's totally different. This one has a non-removable head. Completely different mounting base. So I'm going through some more boxes full of junk, and I come across this old, I believe this to be a Canon. It looks to have the same head. So, in the spirit of trying to repair antique video equipment, just for the challenge, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to take the head out of this piece of junk that's falling apart, and we're going to see whether this head can be mounted in this unit. And all you do is you just remove the screws that hold the drum in place and put them down into the, they have a built-in head puller. You just screw them down into the removing screws, holes, and just give the head a turn. One turn at a time, and it will lift the head off. Now I don't know if this head is any good. This camera has been in pieces for many years, just using it to pick parts off of. So now we've got the head removed. I'm just going to rotate it so that the heads aren't facing towards anything that might scratch them. There we go. And it just lifts, well, it should just lift off. Well, I got the head off, and we're going to install it on this one here and see whether this machine works. I'm fortunate because I was given a camera. I was given an old V110 video camera that just happens to use the same power adapter that this thing uses, and I've also got the multi-connector input-output unit that plugs into the side. But I believe somewhere around I've got the tuner timer unit for this thing too, which turned this unit into a full functional home recorder complete with timer. I'm pretty sure I've still got a tuner timer around, kicking around somewhere in my storage unit. But anyway, I'm going to heat up the soldering iron. We're going to remove the solder from this head and see if it'll install on this unit, and maybe we can make a working 8mm recorder. Wouldn't that be cool? I've got the top cover for it somewhere too. I just don't quite know where that is. That wasn't in the box where I found this. I found just the unit itself. So it's obvious that parts were being picked off this thing for something, and I don't even know where this thing came from. But we're going to see whether replacing the head will make this thing functional. Now we can go about mounting it on the other unit. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the head chips are actually there, and it looks like they're not broken. Let's see if I can zoom this thing in so you can actually see what these head chips look like. Right here, and this one's the erase head, and this is the other video head. It's a two-head design with a flying erase head. So the first thing we need to do is we need to remove the lifter screws the head puller screws, as they called them. This dispensed with the need to have a separate head puller. That was quite common back in the early days of video. To get the head off, you had to have a tool to remove it. And now we just have to line up the 3 heads with the terminals. There are 3 sets of holes where this fits in, and it can only go on one way. You can't put this on the wrong direction, because there are only 3 sets of holes in the bottom. I'll zoom the camera back out here. There are only 3 sets of holes in the bottom of the head drum, which correspond with the 3 sets of pins. So the head should just drop on there, and with a little bit of coaxing, snap down, which it has. So now we'll put the screws back in to seat the head, and then solder it in place, and then we'll test it. One thing you'll notice on this type of machine, this uses a U configuration threading as opposed to an M threading. VHS machines and the 8mm cameras, the more modern 8mm cameras, use 2 guide posts that pulled the tape out and threaded it around the head drum. These ones here use a single loading gear to thread the tape. And the tape is pulled out and threaded all the way around, like a Betamax machine and like a 3/4 inch machine. And well, we'll know momentarily when I get this thing soldered back on whether this thing's going to work or not. I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed that it does, just because it's a neat collector's piece to add to my collection of vintage video equipment. Not that this stuff really has any real monetary value, other than for being able to use it to transfer existing videotapes to a digital format, which is what my business does. So having spare machines available for that is always a good thing. But other than that, they really don't have a lot of value. But still, this is a learning tool, right? You can see what the old video equipment was like, the old cameras, the old video recorders, and this is a piece of history going back to about 1986, I believe, 85, 86, just a snapshot in time of video history where we can see what some of the innovative minds at Sony were doing. So we'll just power this up and see if it actually turns on. Well, that's a good sign, it turns on. And that's an even better sign, the tape compartment opens. Shall we see if it works? So here we go. First tape being installed, and it doesn't open the cassette because it looks like the little lever that presses the cassette forward is either missing or is damaged. Oh, I see. That little lever is stuck. You saw how that loaded that tape, right? That's a good sign. Now, I don't know if this thing's going to play back anything. That's the next thing to find out, whether the thing's going to play. So to answer the question, does it play? Yeah, it does. But it doesn't play very well. And the reason that the tape is playing so bad, as you can see, is because we have a major stiction problem. One of the problems with this design of transport, and one of the reasons that Sony abandoned this design of transport, is because of a phenomenon known as stiction. Stiction occurs when the tape itself sticks to the inner workings of the mechanism. If you look at how this thing threads, there's a lot of contact between the head drum, the lower drum, and the tape path. The tape is pulled out and it's wrapped around the drum, pulls over this way to the capstan shaft and pinch roller, and then it comes all the way back. That loading mechanism worked beautiful on beta and beta cam and 3/4 inch, because one, the tape was wider, and two, the tape was thicker, and three, the tape was not a metal oxide or evaporated metal compound. So what we've got happening here, you can see how high the tension is. It's just pulling like crazy on the tension arm here. Possibly cleaning will alleviate some of these problems, but this was problematic of this chassis design, and one of the reasons that Sony abandoned it. But let's take a look at how it unthreads. See that? It's pretty cool. Thread it up again. It's really neat, this thing. I just like watching the way these things load and unload. Something about it, you know, it's like looking at a 3/4 inch machine. Like on my opening, the first shot of my logo is a 3/4 inch machine unloading. And just, it's so mechanical. It's just quite neat to see these things in operation. So this is definitely something I'm going to be working on to see if I can get this thing, take care of that stiction problem. But we do know that the head does work, and that the unit appears to be working. And I think that if I work on this a little while longer, I might be able to get the thing working well. So I'm just going to get some cleaner in here and just try cleaning, just try swabbing the bottom of the drum unit here and just see whether it's anything sticking on here. I mean, this head drum and this thing's been just sitting for so many years without being touched that we'll just try cleaning some of the rollers and shafts and stuff and see whether that has any effect on it. If it doesn't, I haven't planned on repairing this one tonight. It'll be a future project that I'll kind of put on the back burner for now. But we got a bit of crud off there. Plug my funky adapter in, switch my TV back to the AV input for composite, and see whether we've made any improvement. I haven't noticed any improvement to the sound. It still sounds like it's running slow, actually. So we may actually even have a servo problem on this. But if we can get the tape path to line up, Actually, the more I look at this, the more this is looking like a capacitor problem, even when I put it in freeze frame. Okay, the tape is not moving now at all, yet I've still got this. This is almost looking like a capacitor problem. Maybe the DC to DC converter is going bad. One thing for sure, the tape is not running at the right speed. It definitely looks like an alignment problem though. It looks like a major alignment problem. Just the way that when the cuts between frames are taking place. So either we've got guides that are really out of whack. Just gonna stare at this thing here for a bit, see if anything jumps out at me. I don't have a lot of time to work on it this evening, so it was just kind of, I found it in a box when I was looking for something else, and I thought, why not? If this is something that I can make work, then why not try, right? And try to make it work. Okay, I believe I found the problem on it. Now that I see what's going on, why we're having this alignment problem. If we watch the tape, as the tape is wrapped around the head drum here, when I start to play it, watch the tape is going to ride up the drum. Okay, so when I press play, you'll see it start to rise up. See that? And it doesn't matter whether I tweak the exit guide or not. The exit guide is not doing anything to pull the tape down other than making it curl. The reason why the tape is riding high like that, normally the tape rides down a little lower. It normally rides right along this ridge that's at the bottom of the drum here. Right? Normally the tape rides in this little ridge. The reason the tape is riding high is because the pinch roller over here is worn out. When the pinch roller comes into contact with the tape, it starts to pull the tape up, which throws off the alignment. You see? See what's happening there with the tape? So what I've discovered after spending a little more time working on this, there's actually a plastic piece broken that holds this gear in place. Right? There's too much play on the threading gear. It allows the tape to start riding down on the pinch roller. Pinch roller is probably worn out as well, but anyway, it's pulling the tape out of alignment, and that's probably why this thing was put in the trash bin in the first place, was because when it was worked on many years ago, it was determined at that point in time that it probably wasn't worth spending any money on, and that's why the head was robbed off of it to fix something else. So I guess this goes back to the boneyard, and I won't be spending any more time on this, but we got the head on, so we know that the video circuitry works in it, but we do have a major tape path problem, and it does not look like it's going to be easily resolvable on this. But we'll keep you posted if I do someday get around to fixing this thing. We'll show you what the fix is. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look back at the history of an 8mm. This is the first of the Sony 8mm decks outside of a camcorder, and they're quite interesting little devices. I have a couple of other 8mm decks that are in need of repair too. They have tape hub. The gears have gone bad. Unfortunately, the gear on this one is not the same. Otherwise, I'd be pulling the tape hubs out of here to fix one of my my nice Sony units that I've got. because the parts are no longer available for them. So the only way I'm going to get the part for it is to find one in another working machine. The problem is the tape hub gears are a very common failure on a lot of the Sony machines. So a lot of the camcorders that I see out in the field that people are scrapping, well, the reason they're scrapping them is because the same parts have gone bad in them. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this look at this EV C8U and the interesting layout of this original 8mm chassis. And I believe I do have another unit that uses the same mechanism as this that I'll show you on a future video.